Welcome to Dwarf Star Audio. I'm Phillip Serna. This is where we record Consorts-Minus-One, my Music Minus One service featuring the literature of the viola da gamba, specifically that of the Viol consort. Recorded at both A415 and A440, we offer our recordings in MP3 format in two different tempi for the comfort of players. These are recorded at 256 kilobits per second and 44.1 kilohertz, meaning that they are of high enough fidelity that you can put them on any recording device or audio playback device of your choice. In January of 2020, before the coronavirus pandemic, I was recording Sighs Matrith Not, the complete Fantasias for two treble viols, and the 3- and 4-part consorts for the Great Double Bass by Orlando Gibbons. At that point I realized, primarily due to the method of multi-tracking each individual viol part, that I could use the audio components of that project to create Music Minus One recordings that could benefit the greater viol enthusiast culture at large. As lockdowns began due to the coronavirus pandemic, the kind of need for interacting with other people, I think, became very apparent to all of us, and in earnest, I quickly started to work on these recordings. One of the great joys of working on this project is picking repertoire. Not only for repertoire that I think viol players will enjoy playing, but also that I will enjoy playing. The first thing I do after I've picked a piece is begin to examine the score for things about tempo, meter changes, places where there might be tempo fluctuations, as well as the numbers of measures, and corresponding to modern editions in that case, in order to create a click track in which to put everything together. In addition to the maintenance and upkeep of the instruments, strings, frets, tuning, the kind of big component really is the technology. I use a Windows 10 machine by Hewlett-Packard in which I have a Focusrite Scarlett stereo USB interface plugged into it, and that is how the microphones connect to the digital audio workstation. The microphones I use are a stereo pair of Neumann KM184 condenser microphones. They're very, very high quality, and a good microphone versus a mediocre microphone can make a huge difference in making recordings that really are CD quality or not. My digital audio workstation that I use, my DAW, is Reaper. It's a 64-bit program, and I'd use this for all of my recording and mixing. And during the process, I have a variety of plugins I use to help enhance the sound environment, but also I use the iZotope Ozone 9 mastering software from the very beginning, so even as I'm working on each piece, I can hear the CD quality audio of the end result even from the very beginning of the process. And I think that's what sets our product apart from many of the others on the internet. My large ambition is to make these recordings very professional in quality as any other viol consort recording you might enjoy. One thing that probably sets it apart, though, is I'm very careful as to where in the stereo environment each of the instruments is placed. And creating that environment is part of the fun in making it easy as possible to hear the interaction of the polyphony between all the viol parts. The first combination that I'll show you here is when we have music for three viols, say for treble, tenor, and bass. Bass will often be placed at the center of the mix with the treble over to the left and the tenor viol over to the right in order to have a good enough separation of sound to hear all the parts clearly. Similarly, when we have bass and two trebles, the bass will again be center in the stereo mix, treble 1 to the left and treble 2 to the right. That way is a very clear delineation of all the dialogue going back and forth between the parts. As the number of viols get bigger, it gets to be more creative with how we set things up in the stereo environment. Treble 1 is still on the left, treble 2 is still on the right, but the tenor will often be around 45 degrees to the left and the bass 45 degrees off to the right. When we move up to 5-part music, we also have kind of a mirror going on. Treble 1 is on the left, treble 2 is on the right. Tenor 1 is around 45 degrees to the left, tenor 2 is around 45 degrees to the right, and the bass is right in the center again. To keep as much of the voices as clear as possible and to keep the bass signal from overwhelming the entire mix. When it comes to 6-part music, it's a little bit more interesting. The treble viols are still across from each other in the stereo image, treble 1 left, treble 2 right, and bass 1 will be 45 degrees to the left, bass 2 45 degrees to the right, and closer to the center will be tenors 1 and 2. I do this specifically because, again, the bass viols can easily overwhelm the other instruments in the mix, so we'll be very careful with that, but also because I want to make sure there's a strong core of the inner voices. Our modern ears often make our ears focus on the outer voices most often, and in viol consort music, those tenors are just as important as any of the other voices, and I hope that helps to make it a lot easier to hear all the voices as you're playing these pieces, not only listening to the complete mix of all the parts, but when leaving individual parts out for you to take the place of those. Now, as you probably have noticed from our service, we have 6-part pieces that don't just correspond to 2 trebles, 2 tenors, and 2 basses. We have a few pieces that are for 6 trebles or 6 basses. And I made care with those because they're very equal in timbre to really just kind of go across the stereo image in order to kind of have, in the case of the Daman Fantasia for 6 trebles, each viol enters, and so it will kind of cascade slowly from left to right as you listen to it, and I think it makes it for a very interesting listen. The Ferrabosco Fantasia for 6 basses, on the same token, also have it where really the bass voices are on the outside, but it really is very equal, so it's really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 across the stereo image. When we get to pieces like the 12-part Credo by Blanks, I really just went from left to right, and really kind of dividing up the math to make sure there's plenty of space in the entire stereo image for all the viols to be heard equally. And that's kind of one of the really fun parts about mixing and working on these pieces, is because my goal is for the polyphony to be as clear as possible. And so it's as much an exercise in making myself a better player and teacher, and by listening really carefully to try to get everything to balance and tune well. As it gets to the end of the process, on every Consorts-Minus-One piece, I will render copies to put on my cell phone and listen with earbuds, take downstairs, play on the sound system where we watch movies. I'll even play it in the car to listen how the stereo image works across a variety of different systems. This is not just for my own listening practice, but also I really want to make sure that the end result works very well for anyone using it. So you can play it on the sound device of your choice, be it from something as simple as headphones from a laptop or earbuds with your cell phone to really high fidelity systems. I want to make it a really proper product that you can play anywhere you feel best to play with your viol. Now, the first thing I do when it's to the end of the process, I will render a copy as a WAV file in 96 kilohertz, which means that's broadcast quality, so it's higher than CD quality, and from there is where we compress down to the MP3s at 256 kilobits per second at 44.1 kilohertz. That might be a little too much detail for you to know, but just know that it's better than CD quality, and that's the goal. We render each file in 2 tempi at A415 and 440. We also try to include, with almost all of the pieces, a zip file so you don't have to download each individual file separately. We know there's a lot of Music-Minus-One products for viol players right now, and there's a great variety of voices and intention in making these products available for you. I hope that one of the things that we offer is, in addition to being able to buy pieces a la carte one at a time, you can be able to take advantage of our all-access passes. We have a 1 month, a 6 month, and a 1 year option. And always come back to the website to keep an eye out for promotions and specials, because those prices come down very often. For me, it's not about the economics of it. It's about access to Viol consort music. And for me, it's the more people subscribe, the more I can record of them. And I find working on these pieces is a great part of personal growth for myself as a musician. So anyway, I hope that you'll find them as rewarding as I do. And always welcome your feedback anytime. You can find me at phillipwserna.com. Easy to get in contact, and I hope that you'll give our Consorts-Minus-One a try.